Hello my friends, today we're on our second episode of running around historical sites. This second episode is also filmed in Bucharest, like the first episode. But before we get into today's topic, a big request. Looking at the channel statistics, I see that I have 64% views from non-subscribers and only 36% from subscribers. So, please subscribe and smash the like button to help me reach as many homes as the gentleman present here. The fountains in Union Square have been declared by the World Record Academy as the longest string of synchronized choreographed fountains in the world. They were built during the communist regime when Union Boulevard was also developed and were rehabilitated in 2018 to 2019. The fountains offer water, light and music shows to Bucharest residents and tourists. The jets rotate to the rhythms of the music, adding a dynamic and visual addition at the climax of the show. Another spectacular effect are the jets of water launched by compressed air, which appear suddenly, especially during dramatic moments.
Two elephants see a naked man for the first time. One of them says, "How the hell does this guy get food into his mouth?"
This palace in the Old Center, the headquarters of the National Bank of Romania, was built between 1884 and 1890 by the architect Cassian Bernard, architect of the Alexander III Bridge over the Seine in Paris, and the architect Albert Galleron, who drew up the plans for the Romanian Athenaeum. The French architects were assisted by two Romanian architects. The palace was built on the site formerly occupied by the Serban Voda and built between 1683 and 1685, the city's main inn because of its size and the safety it offered merchants in its fortress-like enclosure. Following the rehabilitation of the historical center in 2010, when the ruins of the Serban Voda Inn were rediscovered, it was decided to cover a portion of Lipscani Street with a glass roof so that tourists could admire them. The statues on the facade of the National Bank of Romania Palace, facing Lipscani Street, representing agriculture and justice, were made by an important sculptor, Ion Georgescu. Two figures, a man and a woman, framing the window and the roof, in which a clock is placed, are apparently made by the architect who also created the sculptural part of the building of the House of Deposits and Economy.
Strip me of words. You got a bug under your shirt.
This building is a historical and national monument in Bucharest. The Palace of the House of Deposits, Consignments and Economy started to be built only in 1897, although until then, having been established in 1864, was first based in a building given by the Ministry of Finance and then in the Serban Voda Inn, where the National Bank was later built. The designer of the building was Paul Godero, and the works were carefully supervised by King Carol I of Romania and Queen Elizabeth. The building took 3 years to construct and was completed in 1900. The architectural style is eclectic, with some Renaissance influences. The entrance is represented by a semicircular arcade, supported by columns, and a large metal and glass dome on the roof. These cupolas are present in several parts of the building, even in the central hall where the counters are located. It is one of the most impressive buildings in Bucharest, and its architecture, compared to that of other buildings, has not suffered from wars or earthquakes over the years.
A sandwich walks into a bar. The bartender says, "Sorry, we don't serve food here."
The Victory Way is one of the oldest arteries in Bucharest, having opened in 1692, more than 300 years ago, under the name of 𝐇𝐢𝐬𝐿 Bridge. Yes, it was called a bridge, even though it is 2.7 kilometers long and not suspended. That's because it was paved with tree trunks along its entire length, and streets of this type were called bridges. And was called that way because it connected the palace of the Old Court, now in the Old Center, with the 𝐇𝐢𝐬𝐿 estate. Because it was so important, aristocratic houses, inns, hotels and luxury shops quickly appeared on it. The name Victory Way was given to it in 1878, when the Romanian army entered Bucharest victorious after winning the War of Independence.
Man's word is law. The woman's word is the additional act that changes the law.
The Palace of the National Military Circle, a symbol of Bucharest, one of the buildings that earned the capital the reputation of Little Paris, was built with the help of donations from Romanian army officers and inaugurated almost a century ago on February 4, 1923. This is the story of a place that remains a testament to the devotion and elegance of another age. Few palaces have preserved their form and purpose over the ages. One such example is right in the heart of the capital, the Palace of the National Military Circle. The idea of building a palace of the military circle was also an ambition of the Bucharest Garrison's officer corps, which wanted to rival in some way the House of 𝐇𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐨𝐫𝐲, the 𝐇𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐨𝐫𝐲 restaurant, located across the street, where it was said that the entire political life of Romania took place, and there were two governments, one that was at 𝐇𝐢𝐬𝐿 and one that was in office, and had all the legal attributes of functioning. The actual works were started in 1914. The architect of this beautiful palace of today is Dimitri Maimarelu, who studied in France, and that is why the palace is in French eclectic style.
I sit and wonder for so long. Whoever invented the clock, when he set it, how did he know what time it was?
The task of creating the statue was placed in the hands of the great Croatian sculptor and artist Ivan Mestrovic, highly appreciated for his works of exceptional quality. On May 10, 1939, the national day at that time, the equestrian statue of King Charles I was inaugurated in the presence of King Charles II and the future King Michael. It was also the 100th anniversary of the birth of Carol I. Carol I of Hohenzollern-Sigmaringen succeeded 𝐇𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐨𝐫𝐲 to the throne of the United Principalities, and from 1881, was King of Romania. He civilized and modernized Romania, until then, kind of a large Balkan village. Carol's German spirit imposed order, discipline, and strictness. But the royalties of the statue cost a good few million euros, and the Mestrovic family did not let the price go down. So the Romanian sculptor Florin Cotter was chosen, whose mission was to try to create a representation of the king as similar as possible to Mestrovic's. The model was set up in the square to see how it would fit in the space, and to test people's reactions. The current statue seems to be missing something. It lacks presence. Mestrovic's statue was slimmer, better defined, better proportioned. The horse's tail sits in an abnormal position, as does the king's cloak. Anyway, overall, the whole does not give the idea of monumentality. That is, when our leaders squabble and quarrel. Instead of buying the copyright once and for all and rebuilding the statue exactly as in 1939, they preferred to pass the job on to a Romanian, who after all, delivered a Romanian statue.
𝐸𝐭𝐨𝐻𝐵𝐻 National Museum is located in 𝐇𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐨𝐲 Palace, one of the most beautiful buildings in Bucharest. The sumptuous entrance, overshadowed by the immense canopy in the most authentic Art Nouveau style, announces that luxury and refinement of the period have come together to build one of the most brilliant and imposing palaces in Bucharest. Built between 1901 and 1903 by Grigore 𝐶𝐢𝐬𝐿, the palace was designed by the remarkable architect Birindai. After his death in 1913, the palace passed into the possession of his son Mihail 𝐶𝐢𝐬𝐿 and his wife Maria, who, after her husband's premature death, remarried in 1937 to 𝐸𝐿𝐻. The Ionescu couple lived from 1945 to 1946 in the house behind the palace, originally intended for the administration of the building. After 𝐸𝐿𝐻's death in 1955, his wife bequeathed the palace and the adjoining buildings to the museum dedicated to the composer's memory.
A tourist is holidaying in India with his beautiful 18-year-old daughter. A very rich Maharaja falls in love with her. "If you will give me your daughter as a wife," he says to her father, "I will give you her weight in gold. In a month, you will get my answer. Will you reconsider?" "No, I want to fatten her up."
Thank you for being here today for 10 minutes with me. I hope you found it useful, and I didn't bore you. If you're here, also thank you so much for watching the whole video. It means a lot to me. See you soon. And if you want, you can watch one of the 4 suggested videos here at the end. Cheers.